Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Southern Stuff Podcast. Today, I am joined by several characters from the book The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. I'm here with Pap, Tom Sawyer, the Duke, Miss Watson, a Shepherdson, a Grangerford, and Huckleberry Finn himself. Today's episode is a good one, as I will be interviewing each character and discussing their perspective and story. I guess we'll start off with Pap. Can you tell us about your relationship with your son, Huckleberry Finn?
That boy ain't nothing but a damn problem. Always running around, going to school, learning about the Bible and all that shit. Thinking he's all fancy and better than me. You gotta get a good beating now and again to keep him humble and remind him that he ain't better than no one.
Can you discuss your struggles with alcoholism and how they impact your life and relationship with Huck?
Struggles? Ha! I ain't been struggling, I've been thriving. Alcohol makes everything better, but it don't change me or what I do. I ain't got a problem. I can quit.
So how do you view society, and how does it influence your behavior and decisions? And to add on to that, what are your thoughts on education and civilization?
I don't give a damn about society, and society don't give a damn about me. All them townspeople think they're better than everyone. Well, I ain't want nothing to do with them stuck-up snobs. I don't give a damn what they think. Hell, sometimes I'll just try and spite them for fun. Education is a load of horse shit. You don't gotta go read no damn books to make a living. School ain't nothing but a big-ass waste of time. And as for civilization, well, they can all go to hell for all I care.
Pap, thank you for your time and coming on here. I enjoyed hearing from you. Now, let's bring on Tom Sawyer. So, Tom, what inspired you to pursue adventure and mischief?
Well, now, that's a mighty fine question here, partner. I reckon it's the freedom of it all that really gets my going. No rules, no adults telling you what to do. Just wide open spaces and endless possibilities. And there's something mighty exhilarating about pushing the boundaries, dipping our toes in the unknown, whether it's exploring hidden caves or playing pirates in the river. Sometimes staring up a little trouble keeps life interesting. But at the end of the day, it's all about following that call of adventure, letting it lead you down a path you never even knew existed. And let me tell you, there's nothing quite like the rush of discovering something new out there in the great wide world. Now, we'll start this band of robbers and call it Tom Sawyer's Gang. Everybody that wants to join has got to take an oath and write his name in blood.
So how would you describe your friendship with Huck? I know you two are pretty close.
Well, me and Huck, we're like peas in a pod, like two sides of the same coin, It's a friendship forged in the fires and adventure and mischief. We've been through thick and thin, faced down all kinds of challenges together, and come out the other side with stories that make your head spin. Huck's the kind of fella who's got a heart as big as the Mississippi itself. He's free-spirited, easygoing, and never lets the troubles of the world weigh him down. We might come from different walks of life, but when we're out there on the river, it's like we're cut from the same cloth. Now, don't get me wrong, we've had our share of disagreements and tiffs, but that's just the spice of a true friendship, ain't it? We look out for each other, have each other's back, and share the joy of a good old adventure. It's a bond that runs deep, like roots of an old oak tree, unshakable and sturdy. So, you see, Huck ain't just a friend, he's a family, the kind you choose for yourself. And there ain't nothing in this world that can break a bond like that.
Can you share some stories of adventures you had with Huck and your gang?
Well, sure thing. Me and Huck, along with our gang of rascals, have had more adventures than you can shake a stick at. One of the most memorable ones was when we decided to become treasure hunters. Now, it all started when we stumbled upon this old map that supposedly led to buried treasure. Of course, we couldn't resist the lure of riches, so we set off on a wild goose, chased through the woods, digging up every spot marked on that map. We faced all sorts of obstacles along the way, from spooky haunted horses to run-ins with the town sheriff. But we didn't let nothing stop us. And wouldn't you know it, after a whole heap of digging and exploring, we finally struck gold, quite literally. Another time, we decided to play a prank on the folks in town by faking my own death. It was a wild scheme that involved a fake grave, a cunning plan to erase up on my own funeral, and a dramatic reveal that left everyone in stitches. And then there was the time we pretended to be a real gang, swearing oath and causing all sorts of trouble around town. We might have stirred up a bit too much trouble that time, but it sure was a barrel of laughs. These are just a few of the adventures me and Huck and the rest of the gang have gotten ourselves in over the years. There's never a dull moment when you're running wild and free along the banks of Mississippi with your best buddies by your side.
Tom, I learned a lot about you today. Thank you for joining me. Now let's hear from the Duke. Thanks for coming on. How do you justify your deceptive actions and schemes?
Well, really, my chap, how could you accuse me of such accusations? I shall be utterly astonished if that isn't the most ludicrous notion I've ever encountered. It is absurd, my good fellow. My occupation, what do you call schemes, is nothing more devious than your podcasting thing. Like yourself, I simply am a humble entertainer. I perform the great Shakespeare himself, like the tragic love of Hambeth and Macbeth. Jolly good show.
Can you describe your experience traveling with Huck and Jim for me? What was that like?
Huck is a fine young lad, but he can be quite, how should I say this? Simple. He really overthinks and cares too much. He's often in his feelings, as you Americans say. Jim, on the other hand, is quite the burden. I might say he's as ineffectual as a screen door on a submersible vehicle. I tried getting rid of him, but Huck, that poor boy, is just so attached I couldn't follow through.
Right. So, what drives you to engage in cons and fraudulent activities? You know, many people are wondering why you don't get a real job.
Again, the notion that one must have a single, boring job is simply ridiculous. I would rather be out and about seeing the world. Besides, many opportunities arise to make a more than a few gold galleons. I could never be stuck doing some stuffy podcast to barely scrape by, but take no offense, my dear sir. To each his own.
I see. Do you have any moments in your life where you regret being such a fraud?
Do you hear me? I declare for the last time I am not a fraud, and I will not entertain your pestering insistence for a moment. You simply have the wrong perspective. Kingdom is a state of mind.
Alright, I think we learned one key thing from the Duke. He is a big fraud. So, alright, thanks, I guess, for coming on. You shared some valuable information, most notably that you're a fraud. Nonetheless, it's time to hear from our next guest, a Shepherdson. Okay, thanks for joining me. So, what are your thoughts on the long-standing feud between your family and the Grangerfords?
Them Grangerfords can burn in hell for all I care. They're damn savages. Savages, I tell you. They ought to be hanged. Every last one of them. They ain't nothing but no good, bottom of the barrel, mangy, scavenging, backstabbing scum of the earth.
Wow, that sounds really difficult to live with. So how does this feud affect your daily life and relationships?
Hell, sometimes all I can think about is them damn Grangerfords. It's a nice distraction sometimes. Makes the working go by quicker. Also, the family ain't never been closer. I think we kind of bond over our hatred of them Grangers. Do make me angry, and even paranoid, though. Always having to be ready for a brawl with them cowards.
Wow, that sounds terrible. Do you believe there's any hope for reconciliation between the two families?
Hell nah. We hate them and they hate us, and that's the simple truth. Ain't nothing gonna change. For reconciliation, that'd mean that either us or them would have to give in to the other, and they're too damn stupid and stubborn to quit. I'd rather be shot full of holes like a block of cheese before kneeling to the likes of that vermin.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. I hope your feud gets solved soon. I hope the violence ends eventually. But anyway, thanks for hearing from you. Now let's bring on a Grangerford.
Wait, what? What did you say?
Oh, it seems we lost connection. So I guess we'll go to our next guest, a Grangerford. So how do you feel about the violence and animosity between your family and the Shepherdsons?
How do I feel? What kind of question is that? I tell you, them Shepherdsons are a bunch of ruthless sons of... Point is, not one of us Grangerford could recall how this all started, which can only mean them Shepherdsons started this whole damn thing. And not one of us can stop it. It's just the way it is. And as you know, they deserve it. Next question.
Wait, so let me get this straight. You and another family have a feud, and you don't even know who started it? What's this feud even over? I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. Anyway, what are your hopes for the future of your family and the feud?
My hope? There is no hope. Our feud is rooted in a deep-seated hatred that ain't one of us can explain. I have no desire for resolution or reconciliation. I yearn for vengeance and bloodshed. What else can I do? It's not about winning or losing. It's about maintaining my family's honor and pride, no matter the cost. I mean, a feud is this way. A man has a quarrel with another man and kills him. Then that other man's brother kills him. Then the other brothers on both sides goes for one another. Then the cousins chip in. And by and by, everybody's killed off. And there ain't no more feud.
So do you see any parallels between the feud and broader societal conflicts?
As I did get a bit of an education, I can brag of a keen eye for this kind of parallels you're asking about. I would say that, while they are evident, I see them only as a validation of our conviction for confliction than a cause for reflection. Our feud reflects merely the natural and just order of things. Us against them, right against wrong. You may find it a brutal reality, but you either accept and adapt or perish like those goddamn Shepherdsons!
Do you want to share any stories about your feud with the Shepherdsons? I mean, this feud has existed for almost 100 years, and people are talking about it in almost every state in America. So I'm interested to see what you have to say about it.
The only stories I could tell you are tales of triumph and glory, of righteous vengeance against our sworn enemies. And I can tell you that this one time, I spied some Shepherdson girl getting water in a pump. I snuck up behind and killed her with the rope! Asphyxiation or whatever. That's my favorite rope. I got it framed in everything if you want to see.
Wow. Yeah, thank you for sharing that with me. Did I previously mention that we just interviewed a Shepherdson? And he's with us in the studio right now.
Really? Where is he? I'm gonna kill him!
Well, he just ran out the door. So I guess we'll bring on Miss Watson. Miss Watson, as a figure of authority and influence in Huck's life, how do you view your responsibility towards his upbringing and education? You know, I heard you want him to be some sort of upstanding citizen, do you not?
Well, now, when it comes to Huck's education, I reckon it's my sole duty to guide him towards the path of righteousness, as the good book teaches us. Bless his heart.
So what are your thoughts on Jim, particularly your ownership of him as a slave, and your attempts to, quote, civilize him?
Bless your heart for asking. My thoughts on Jim? Well, they're complicated. I'll tell you that much. You see, Jim's a good man, a faithful servant, and I reckon he deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, just like any of the Lord's creatures. But you must understand, back in the days, things was different. Owning a slave was a part of life, a part of natural order, as some folks saw it. As for my attempts to civilize him, well, I suppose I thought I was doing him a kindness, teaching him to read and write, teaching him the ways of the good Lord. It was all meant to uplift him, to make him a better man. But looking back now, I see how misguided I was. Jim don't need to be civilized by nobody. He's a free spirit, a man with his own thoughts and feelings, and it ain't my place to try and change him.
So how do you perceive Huck's growing independence and defiance of authority? Do you see it as a failure on your part to guide him?
Well, bless your heart for asking. Now, when it comes to Huck's growing independence and defiance of authority, I reckon it's natural for a young boy to test his boundaries, to assert his own will. Lord knows, Huck's always been a spirited one, marching to the beat of his own drum, as they say. But as for seeing it as a failure on my part to guide him, well, I ain't so sure about that. You see, I've done my best to raise Huck right, to teach him the ways of the Lord and the ways of proper society. But sometimes, no matter how hard you try, a child's got to find his own path in life. And if that means bucking against authority and striking out on his own, well, who am I to stand in his way? Now, don't get me wrong. I worry about Huck, I truly do. I worry about the dangers he might face out there in the world, away from the safety of home. But I also trust in the good Lord to watch over him, to guide him on his journey, wherever it may lead. So, while I may not always understand Huck's choices or agree with them, I reckon I got respect in his independence and his right to make his own decisions. After all, ain't that what growing up is all about? Learning to stand on your own 2 feet and follow the path the good Lord lays out for you.
Since we're almost out of time, we only have time for one more person. Please welcome the star of today's episode, Huckleberry Finn. Let's get to the first question. How would you describe your journey of self-discovery and moral growth throughout your whole adventure with Jim?
Hey y'all, my name's Huckleberry Finn, or Huck for short. I would describe my journey of self-discovery and moral growth as intense. It allowed me to grow and develop as a little kid. I also made a new friend. I found who I was as a person, and Jim played a key role model for me. He was smart, intelligent, and through Jim, he allowed me to find myself. The adventure allowed me to build curiosity. It allowed me to discover who I am as a kid.
So what challenges did you face during this adventure? And to add on to that, how did they affect you?
Yes, sir, I faced many challenges during this adventure. The first one is that I'm a kid, and I didn't know what to do. We just went downstream and hoped to find a place to call home. Another issue that I had was when the hunters came from the land, came running over to ask me if Jim was on the boat. I also didn't know what to do and how to handle my problem, but I just says I was with my family and that Jim wasn't on the boat. I says, because it's Pap that's there, and maybe you'd help me tow the raft ashore where the light is. He's sick, and so is Ma and Mary Ann. I didn't want to tell on Jim, and I wanted to stay true to him. These were 2 terrible issues that I faced, and they were hard, but I got through them. They affected my life in many ways. Many ways. It showed I was brave by going on this journey and that I trusted Jim. When the hunters came to me, it showed I was true to Jim and trustworthy. But it ended up causing me to feel some sort of guilt. It made me think I took Jim from Miss Watson, but at the same time, I was helping Jim. I didn't know what to do again, but I stayed true to Jim and continued the adventure. These difficult times allowed me to build moral growth and self-discovery to find who I really was as a person.
Can you discuss your evolving relationship with Jim and how that affected your life?
Jim and me's relationship has grown a great amount. At the beginning of the book, we hid from Jim in the garden in the backyard. Tom and me, we was just hiding until Jim was asleep. We was afraid of him, but as we went on the journey, we became friends. Good friends. We trusted each other and became trustworthy to each other. We became almost best friends. I look up to Jim, and he teach me a lot. Me and Jim's relationship has given me character development and taught us to become best friends.
And overall, what lessons have you learned?
Throughout my journey, some lessons I've learned about myself and the society around me is that we live in a tough world. Around us, there's a lot of bad, but also a lot of good. I got to explore. I got to meet a new friend, and I became a different person. It's good to see that there are still good people in the world like Jim, who can step up for me and be a great role model for me. He made me laugh, and he taught me what it's like to be a good friend and a good person.
Thanks, Huck. I'm really happy you joined me today. Maybe we can make another episode with you and Jim. See ya. And that concludes our interview today with several characters from the book The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. I hope you all enjoyed and also learned something from it. For bonus episodes, check out SJP and CM video projects on YouTube in the following weeks. Again, that's SJP and CM video projects on YouTube. And as always, thank you for listening in on the Southern Stuff podcast. I hope to see you in the next episode. I'll see you there.